Welcome to Sartor TV. I'm Jennifer Crumpton. Today I'm talking with Greisy Flores, the Global Manager of Technical Training at Nestle. Greisy, thanks so much for being with us today. You made a very impressive rise through the ranks at Nestle over the course of 22 years. Tell us a little bit about your professional journey and how you got to where you are now.
Okay, well, I've always been a very curious person, and I've always liked to learn a lot. So I think both of those things had a lot to do with my professional experience, right? But I started working for Nestle, like you said, 22 years ago, and I was a filler operator on a factory floor. And I really worked my way through the ranks, right? So I was everything from a packaging operator to inventory control, warehouse management, and to the point where I was able to actually volunteer to be in these special projects that worked on a lot of different things. So being able to do that, gave me a lot of opportunities. I was also very lucky because I work for a company who really allows you to try and fail things, right? And so it gave me a lot of confidence as I was growing along with my profession. So the ability to explore through my curiosity and learn, and then also be able to try new things without worrying about failing, well, that really gave me an edge.
Was there anyone stop along the way that was kind of most memorable?
I think working at a factory in Maine. We had a big water factory in Maine. It was rather a big challenge, big factory, a lot going on all the time. I really learned a lot about not just operations, but all the different personalities, you know, and had to deal with all those different personalities up there. So I owe a lot to that experience, actually.
What do you think is the biggest challenge that you've faced along the journey of your career, and how did you overcome that challenge?
All right, so when I was younger, I read this quote that said that luck is when preparedness meets opportunity. And it's always resonated with me, right? So what I've always found to be a bit challenging is being able to have the visibility to what's coming 3-4 years down the road, and being able to have the resources that I need to be able to prepare myself for those opportunities. But I think that's, you know, the same thing for a lot of people. The way that I overcame that was that I really took it upon myself to educate myself. So I didn't rely just on what the company offered me, but also went to external resources. So I looked at a lot of things on the internet, read books, blogs, and things like that, so that I could keep up with what's going on with the different trends.
So tell us a little bit about the day-to-day and the overarching goals of your role as the Global Manager of Technical Training. What does that look like? What do you do?
Okay, so my job is to deliver the learning and performance strategy that is going to meet the needs of the modern learner, right? So Nestle has the same challenges as most companies, which is a constant changes in people's roles. So what we do is we provide our knowledge owners with simple to use tools and methods to be able to capture that knowledge and to create it and to share it, right? And then we also help others to acquire that knowledge and apply it. So my team, basically, our goal is to be able to deliver the right information to the right person at the right time.
Tell us about how technical training is structured at Nestle.
So we're structured with the Help and Embedded Learning program. And what that program does is it helps us to deliver the learning and performance strategy in a very efficient way. Our IT solution owners partner with the learning experts from our Technology Learning Center to co-create digital learning solutions. We then make the solutions available through contextual embedded help right in the application.
What do you think are some of the biggest challenges of your industry? What are other technical trainers like yourself, as well as yourself, concerned about?
I think there's two big challenges. One is that is the rapid rate of change, and the second one is competing for the learner's time. So people don't really have time to train anymore. So what we have to do is embed learning directly into the workflow so that it's completely seamless with performance. If we do that right, then learning won't be such a disruption to their workday.
Are there any special challenges with effectively engaging a new generation of learners these days? And how do you address that?
I think it's replicating the everyday world experiences that they have and love into their workplace experience. Because what I find today about young people is that they're not as interested in drawing a line between their personal and work life as earlier generations. They want to be much more engaged. and they want to be able to contribute and make a difference early on. And I think we should appreciate that about them and really do something special for them.
How do you communicate the value of the training that you're doing to your stakeholders?
So for me is I point to our technology roadmap and to the business impacts that it's going to bring. So today, business and technology are pretty much hand in hand, right? So if you're going to realize organizational and financial success, you need to understand the role that technology plays in that. And if you have a workforce that doesn't know how to use the system properly, or really take the right benefits of having big data, digital platforms, the Internet of Things, and all the other things that are coming, then you really risk losing your competitive advantage.
What are some of the digital strategies that you've implemented that seem to work really well for you at Nestle?
Well, one of our most favorite one is what I call our skills portals. We have taken long, complicated guidelines and broken them up into smaller topics pages. Then we apply new writing styles and we put them all into a digital platform that's really easy for the users to find and to use. And they seem to really like this.
Smaller chunks of info, I guess, huh?
Yeah, topic pages, short and concise and to the point.
Nobody wants to read anything of any significant length these days.
No, they don't. Everyone scans a page. Yeah. You scan a page, you do it yourself, right? You scan a page, you look for keywords, and if it's of interest to you, within the first 3 to 5 seconds, you might go back and read the page. If it's not interested to you, you're gone, you're out of there. And so we face the same issues, you know, when we do our work, so it's really important.
How important is design thinking for training in the digital age?
I think it's more important than ever because we have more choices than ever. So today, for me, design thinking allows us to really take a look at the core things that we need to be able to design and create those things first, right? Because we don't really have the time or the resources to spend on things that don't work.
What are some of the ways that you've used design thinking in L&D?
So the way we're using design thinking today is by building personas of who our digital learners are. So what we want to do is really understand who the digital learner is. Where do they go? How do they consume our content? And what are the things that they're willing to put up with if they have a perceived value, such as an alert or a pop-up window, right? So today, you can actually monitor where the learner goes into the system, and you can see what they're looking for. And based on that, you can push content directly to them. So it's important to understand their behavior and how you can be proactive in creating the right learning assets for them.
How do you encourage learning across the entire company at Nestle, led by your training division?
Right, so we base our learning and performance strategy on 2 well-known models. One is the 5 moments of learning needs, and the other one is the 70-20-10 reference model. So for the 5 learning moments, what we do is we encourage all of our solution owners to create content for when something is new to the user, when they want to do a deep dive and learn more, when they're trying to apply what they've learned, when they're trying to solve a problem, and when something changes. The other way is that we always start with the 70%. We want to make sure that we focus on performance and we're supporting the performer. We also help the teams able to create for the 10%. So we teach people how to create storyboards and deliver their own e-learning courses. And then last but not least is we support the collaboration and the co-creation between different groups. So we embed tools such as Yammer and social learning networks into our learning applications so that when the learner is out there trying to learn something, if they can't find the information they need, they have a one-click to a learning organization where they can then ask.
How do you measure the success of your learning programs?
Performance improvement. So we want to make sure that our learning and development program really targets business objectives and that we're effectively then providing performance improvements not just at the individual level but also at the organizational level.
What role does analytics play generally in the field of learning these days?
I think it plays the same role as it does in other areas, whereas we take a look at the things that we think we know and we actually then learn from those things. So for instance, in learning and development, we often think we know exactly what it is that the learner needs. So we go and create these materials, give it to them, and then they don't use it, right? So with analytics, we're able to go out there and look at user behavior in the system and what they're looking for and what they're searching for. And then we really know what they need. So then we're able to be more proactive in creating those learning materials for them.
Greisy, are there any specific challenges that organizations are facing in using analytics for L&D?
Yeah, I think that first, having and finding the right data is important. Then the second challenge is interpreting that data in a way that helps you really understand what is the learning content that you need to create. It's also challenging to build the right dashboards to give you the information that you need regarding how people are consuming your content. And then last but not least is finding the right business KPIs so that you can see whether or not your program is being effective.
How can leaders like you, Greisy, continue to sort of weave learning into the fabric of a company's culture?
That's a good question. I think there are three important ways. One is through transparency, the other one is through transformation, and the third is through investment. So if you're looking at transparency, I think leaders have a role to play in being really honest with the workforce and explaining to them the long-term strategies of the company, the technical roadmaps that we have, and how that's going to impact their roles, right? In many cases, 50% of the jobs that exist today are not going to be around 5 years from now. So we need to be clear about that. Then they need to work with the HR departments to make sure that people understand what those role changes are and prepare for those. And we also have to be very proactive into transforming our companies into learning organizations. And last but not least, they need to invest in learning and development, not only in new technologies, but in learning professionals. They need to make sure that learning and development is just as an important function of the organization as finance or sales or manufacturing.
Do you think that some companies don't take investing in L&D very seriously? Do you see that as a problem kind of across the industry?
I think so. I think first of all, it's one of the first areas that gets cut sometimes when you have budget issues. And also it's because they don't really understand the extent of what a learning organization can bring to the organization. If you embed learning into the entire product life cycle from start to finish, or into the entire life cycle of an employee, that's a really big commitment, not just in resources, but also in cost. So I think that's one of the reasons companies have a tendency to sort of shy away from that. Also because measuring the return on investment is very hard. But if you can do a pretty good job at those ROIs, I think they would be more willing to invest.
Greisy, what are some of the key skills that leaders who are in your position at various companies need to have today to be successful?
I think you need to be able to inspire others. You have to have a very clear vision, and you also have to be able to tell people exactly how they can help you, achieve your vision of the future. The second thing is team building. You need to find people with the same passion for learning as you have, who are really willing to build that extraordinary organization that you want to build. And last but not least, you need to really be good at learning and applying what you learn quickly, because you have to be very results focused. People don't have a lot of patience with learning and development, so you need to be able to show a return on investment quickly, especially if you're under a lot of financial stress.
So as the learning trainer, you have to be a very good learner yourself.
Exactly.
You have to be sort of the example.
Exactly.
In so many ways.
I believe that learning is our most important capability and our most important skill. And every single person has to be really good at doing that. And as in our organization, we have to teach people. Right? We have to teach them how to learn. And learning doesn't mean that you sit in a classroom and you learn new things. You can learn things by going to seminars or watching TED Talks or even coaching your younger generation. In learning in our organization, there's a lot of different ways to foster learning. It's not just classroom training.
Especially these days, we're very lucky.
We're very lucky
to have so many different resources.
Exactly.
For every personality out there.
That's true.
What are some of the major skills gaps that you see across the workforce that are really going to need to be addressed to be successful in the future?
So we have to start looking at learning as a capability and a skill set that we need to build in our employees and ourselves. Learning is an essential part of success, and you have to take ownership of it. So if your company is not providing you with the learning opportunities that you need, by all means say so. But look to outside resources, because there's plenty of them out there.
I'm curious too, do you feel like, particularly with new members of the workforce, maybe coming out of college or grad school, is there a sense of really knowing or understanding how to learn and how important learning is? Or do you think it's something that kind of has to be taught to new members of the workforce?
No, I think it has to be taught to the older generations, because we bought into the mindset that we got a college degree and now we got a job, and if I'm doing my job and I'm doing well at my job, that's good enough. Where the younger generation, they grew up or are growing up with, I'm constantly learning and training and doing new things, and
It's like a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
I can go to YouTube, or I can go to a blog, right? I can learn from anything, gamification, and everything's given to me at my fingertips, right? So I don't think it's the younger generation that we need to teach to learn. I think it's maybe our, middle to older generation who thinks that I have all this job experience, why do I need to learn anything new now? I shouldn't have to be learning at my age. I think that's more challenging.
Yeah. How can training or learning be designed particularly to retain talent?
That's a good question. So, high-performing organizations, they understand that you need to hire people who already come with a learning and growth mindset, right? And they also understand that you need to embed learning into the life cycle of your employee, from hire to retire. It's a lifelong partnership that you both benefit from, right? So the employee feels like they're valued, so they feel like they can make a greater contribution. And you as a company benefit from that by having better performance through better skills and better knowledge.
Greisy, what advice do you give young people who are just starting out in their careers? What do you tell them is most important?
What I tell them is that learning and being able to apply what you've learned faster than anyone else around you is a competitive advantage. So be really good at it and never stop learning.
Greisy, thank you so much for talking with us today and sharing all of your knowledge and wisdom and experience. It's so important. Thank you.
Thank you. It's really exciting to be here today.
Thanks for joining us today at Sartor TV. We look forward to seeing you again next time.